Welcome to Mydbops MyWebinar. To subscribe our channel, press the bell button, like, share and comment.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mahalakshmi. I'm an associate database engineer at Mydbops. Today, we're gonna discuss redo-log improvements in MySQL version 8.0. I'm having a keen interest in MySQL and MySQL ecosystem. I'm having a good knowledge in performance troubleshooting and Innodb internals. About our company, Mydbops, we provide services on top open source databases. We founded in 2016 and we are a 85-member team. We have assisted over 800 plus customers, and we are AWS partner, a PCI certified and ISO certified organization. What services we at MyDBOps provide? Database consulting services and managed database services. We focuses on top open source database MySQL, MariaDB, MongoDB, and Postgres. Our audience are database engineers, database administrators, DBREs, cloud DBAs, DevOps engineers, SREs. This is the today's agenda. What is Innodb and an overview of a redo log, and then the dedicated log writer thread. What is redo archiving and page tracking? How can we disable redo log? And how can we configure the log writer thread and the dynamic redo log file size? How can we globally set the redo log file size? And these are all the improvements made in MySQL version 8.0 to Innodb redo log. Going further, first let's see what is Innodb. Innodb is a transaction-safe storage engine. It supports atomicity, consistency. It provides isolation through undo logs and durability through redo logs. And Innodb's default since MySQL version 5.5. It supports row-level locking to provide a user-level multi-user performance. And Innodb also provides multi-version concurrency control. This is the Innodb architecture. Innodb maintains two copies of its pages, one in in-memory and the other on disk. And in in-memory, we are having a transaction logs, buffer pool, and everything. You could see in the diagram here. And in on disk, we are having table spaces and a circular buffer. Here we gonna be focusing on these redo log files, where we can see IB underscore log file and what are the improvements made to these files and redo log. We are focusing on this, and bin log files and are there on the on disk structures. This is the Innodb architecture. Let's see the overview of a redo log. Redo log contains all the committed and uncommitted transactions. So while in database happened a crash, then we can use these logs to recover the data. And it's also known as a write ahead locking. Before double write, before buffer pool is writing data to the data files, log buffer is writing data to the redo files. So a write ahead. So it is known as a write ahead logging. And the writes are in circular write disk structures on disk structures because this is still only 8.0.30, and in 8.0.30 we are having 32 redo log files, which we'll discuss in the last slide of this presentation. Redo log architecture, from memory log buffer 2, it writes all the data to the disk, that is to redo log files. You could see in the picture. And if we can configure the log buffer using Innodb log buffer size variable, and the redo log files, we can configure the size of those using Innodb log file size till 8.0.30. I will discuss how can we configure the size in 8.0.30 in the coming slides. These are the improvements timeline. What are the in which on which release date or in which minor version of MySQL we got added in new features or new improvements to the Innodb redo log. In 8.0.11 we got introduced to dedicated log writer thread, that is on April 19, 2018. And in 8.0.17 we got introduced to page tracking and archiving. In 8.0.21, we can able to disable the redo logs, and from 8.0.22 we can configure the log writer thread, which was already introduced in 8.0.11, and we can dynamically globally set the redo log file size in 8.0.30. Let's discuss dedicated log writer thread first. Dedicated log writer thread writes the data from the log buffer to the redo log files. Like it writes the data from the log buffer to the system buffers, and it flushes the system buffer data to the redo log files. This is the purpose of the redo log writer thread. Before that, Innodb master thread used to do this thing, like um, writing the data from the redo log buffer and flushing it to the disk. It is taken care by the Innodb master thread previously. And if you want to implement performance in your database uh, for a high concurrency system, so which is more than 4 core or 8 core you are having, then you can enable dedicated log writer thread. As of 8.0.11, we are not having configuring option. So in 8.0.22 only we can configure the log writer thread. By default, it get enabled in 8.0.11. This is the rough architecture which I already explained you, like log writer thread, the purpose of log writer thread. It writes all the data from the redo log buffer to the OS cache, and from OS cache it writes all data to the redo log files and flushes to the disk. This is the purpose of log writer thread. So to improve the performance, we can specify like a dedicated log writer thread to do this task. And redo log archiving, it was introduced in 8.0.17. Consider you are taking a backup where there are heavy writes in your system. So it was difficult to the backup storage media if it is less than the redo log storage media. Then what will happen? It might miss the redo log records. So what we'll do is we will write all these redo log files to the archived redo log file, and this would be beneficial when we take a backup. So of course it needed an extra disk space. These are the steps in enabling redo log archiving. And first, create a directory under MySQL data directory. Give the ownership permission and change the permissions to the directory. And using set global, Innodb redo log archive directories is the system variable, and backup one is the label name which we giving to the directory path /varlib/redo test here. And using start function, we can start the archiving after enabling it. And the start function is Innodb redo log archive start. Here in parameters, the first parameter is the label to which we give the /varlib /redo test. Archive is the subdirectory. Here you have created the subdirectory, so all the redo log files will go to this archive folder. Uh, um, so in that we are having the archive log. This log grows heavier, grows huge, because all the redo log files being written into this file. First, this is some MB, and then it's 1 GB, and next it is 2 GB. This is our final log file. So backup utilities use this log file while copying the redo log contents from. After starting redo log archiving, when we want to stop the redo log archiving, we have to use this Innodb redo log archive stop function. And make sure you stop the function where you started in which session where you started it. Like I have started archiving in one session, and I tried to stop the archiving in other session. It prompted an error like redo log archiving has not been started by this session. So make sure you start and stop the archiving in the same session. And we should not exit from the session when we are doing redo log archiving. Because of network connectivity, I got disconnected from the session, and it's saying stop at redo archiving and deleted the file. And my file, what are the redo log files is till now written to the archive log file. Those that file got deleted and archiving had been stopped. So these are some of the errors which I faced while stopping. This is how we start the archiving and the purpose of archiving is. Later, page tracking. In the same version, we are having page tracking introduced. Consider you have taken a backup yesterday and you are going to take backup today, either full or incremental backup. What the today's backup do is it copies all the modified pages from the previous backup. But in doing the thing, it has to scan as a brute force method. It will scan all the table space data, all the table space data file, like whether this is modified or not. So it would be difficult and it is expensive. So we are introduced to page tracking mechanism. Just one thing all you have to do is while taking full or incremental backup, you have to give hyphen hyphen page hyphen tracking option with your extra backup. So this will ensure only to the main point is like this activity, this page tracking is done at the IO layer when the page is being flushed to the disk. So we are very sure about that. We are taking only the modified pages there. And I will explain how the page tracking mechanism works, like how only we are getting the modified pages. And this is how, like if you could see in the diagram, um, the green color indicates the system LSN and the red line, double line indicates the checkpoint LSN. The system LSN is like the page tracking is taking the system LSN as a start ID and checkpoint LSN as the stop ID. In between these pages, we can ensure that there are modified pages. Like system LSN is till where the till what are the transactions are get committed, and checkpoint LSN is till where the all the pages are flushed to the disk. So in between, what are the pages are being committed when the pages are being flushed to the disk. So we can ensure the we can track here and we can get the modified pages. This is how page tracking is advantageous while you are taking backup, to go not so expensive thing. We can use this page tracking really helpful. How can we disable redo log? We can disable redo log in 8.0.21. Let's see how can we do it and what are its advantages, and where we can disable it, and what are the limitations in disabling redo log. We can see that. Where we can disable the redo log while we are while we are loading the data into the new MySQL instance, then we can disable redo log. Or when we are doing migration between the servers, we can disable there. And the most importantly, where we can disable it's really advantageous, like when you are rebuilding the servers using the logical backups, there you can disable the redo logs. What are the advantages? It avoids additional IO usage. Redo logs are IO intensive. So when you're having a database using heavy IOPS, there are heavy writes. Then to save the IOPS and use it means you can disable the redo logs and you can use those writes here. And so write amplification get reduced. How can what are the disadvantages of disabling redo log? If we disable the redo log, there is no redo log archiving. As I told you, redo log archiving is what redo log writes. Redo log are written to the redo log archive folder, and so no redo log archiving. And one main thing is when we disable the redo log, it also disables the double write buffer. So don't go for disabling in your production environments. And what we achieve through redo logs is the durability, which is the essential part in the ACID property. To ensure Innodb is a ACID compliant storage engine, as we discussed in the very first slide. So we don't achieve durability there when we disable the redo logs. And how to disable the redo log? And we have disabled the redo log using like we granted the Innodb redo log enable privilege. And then using alter statement, the second alter instance disable Innodb redo log statement, we disable the redo log. And to check whether the redo log is disabled or not, or it is what's the status of it. You can get that from performance schema, else you can check it show global status like Innodb redo log enabled. Like we have disabled redo log where there are heavy writes or disk load is high. To save the IOPS and use, we disable redo log there. These are the some of the graphs showing what is before, how is it before and how is it after. Let's go to some observation. We have disabled the redo log at some 6.5, and previously the disk operations are very heavy, like the usage of IOPS you could see here, the spike had increased, and after we disabling, the spike got reduced. The writes you can see. The usage of bandwidth also got reduced. The usage of disk bandwidth till then is so heavy, and then after this it got reduced. This is the disk load in our server. The disk load is till 6.5, this dotted lines you could see, and the disk load after disabling you could see. So when we disable the redo log, there are no log writes. So if you could observe the log writes graph here, it fall to 0. So no log writes are happening. And as I told, when you disable read log, the double write buffer also automatically gets disabled. So I have disabled the read log, and Innodb double write buffer also got disabled, and there is no writes happening. It's also fall to 0. So this is how we can use read log disabling, but make sure to not disable in the production environment. How can we configure log writer thread? And like in 8.0.11, we got introduced to log writer thread to move the data, to write the data from the log buffer to the OS caches and then flushing it to the disk. From redo log files to flushing it to the disk. So how can we configure it? Like if you're having a low concurrency system, a 2-core or mission or anything, then you can disable the log writer thread there using the system variable Innodb log writer thread system variable. By default, it is enabled, and the value to a system variable is boolean. It is on or off. So recommend to disable in low concurrency systems to improve high performance, and by default it is enabled only. So if you are having a system or 2-core or anything, just disable it. A dynamic redo log file, guys. We had already posted a blog on this in our MyDBOps blog post. And we are also posting the blogs on these features also. You can read more there. And I will explain you how can we dynamically reduce the change the size of a redo log file. We sometimes want to increase the redo log file size, um, but we require a downtime and a MySQL restart. So till MySQL 8.0.29, to do this we need a MySQL restart, and we are having only 2 files, that 2 log writes are in a circular fashion. Here in 8.0.30 we are having 32. Innodb tries to maintaining 32 files, redo files. In that the writes are in a sequential queue and the files are getting purged. You will get a better idea. um, if you could see this diagram, um, the green slots shows the files which are filled, and the blue slots showing the right which is being written, the file which is being written, and the free slots are the white blocks. So this is the hash innodb underscore redo is the directory, and in that we are having redo log files, and the whatever the files are getting filled, they are not declining, they are dynamic, they are getting purged. We are not having the same file name later. How to change the size and check status. We have modified the redo log file size using Innodb redo log capacity variable to 2 GB. The default is 100 MB. That is, we changed it to 2 GB, and that means a 64 MB per file. If you just give this command, this is a dynamic command like set global, you can give Innodb redo log capacity equals to. And to check the status of Innodb, like it is upsize or downsize, this provides the status like it is okay or not. The resize is the status. Innodb redo log resize status. You can check it is okay or not. How to monitor the redo log file size? Like the redo log slot and the status can be monitored from using a table Innodb redo log files under the performance schema. We could see here the file is active or not and which file is being written, that like the size of the file and the slot number, total LSN. We can check this like how many files are active now, what file is writing now, and what is the status of it. We can monitor the redo log files as here. The table name is Innodb redo log files. And these are the references. We will share this presentation in our webinar link and in our social media platforms in short 1 to 2 days. If you are missing anything here, you can go through this presentation, else you can refer to these reference links to get a better understanding. Thank you. Please reach us at info@mydbops.com. And if you're having any doubts, please feel free to reach. That's it, Mayuri. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. To subscribe, press the bell button, like, share, and comment.